Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from wherever you are, and welcome to this test drive of LMN budgeting. In this video, we're going to take you on a test drive of what might be your first budget, or what's probably at least your first attempt at an LMN budget. The budget is probably the most underrated part of any landscape software anywhere. It's going to help make sure that the decisions you make are not only profitable for your company, but that the decisions that your estimators make are going to be profitable for every job your company prices. In fact, by the time you're done mastering it, you'll wonder how you ever ran your landscape business without it. We just about guarantee it. So buckle up and let us take you through a quick spin through it. Let's just pause for a second though and look at what a budget is. The budget represents your plan for profit. It's a forecast of what you're going to sell and how much you're going to spend to sell that much work. And you got to make sure those numbers balance out to be profitable. But your budget, the way LMN built it, is going to help you solve hard to calculate costs. Things like, what does your equipment truly cost per year and per hour? Or what is your overhead and how much does it cost per year per hour? And more importantly, how much do I need to mark up my estimates to recover that overhead? You got to make sure that when you're bidding jobs, that those jobs cover all their costs plus its fair share of overhead and the net profit that you're hoping for. And the only way that you can really make sure all those three things are covered are by estimating from a budget. Your LMN budget can also analyze and benchmark your financial plan. So it'll look at your different numbers, it'll compare it to companies who do a similar mix of work and tell you where you might be high or low or efficient or inefficient to help you figure out the weak spots in your business, identify them, and ultimately fix them. But most importantly of all, the budget's here to help reduce your stress and the unknowns of running and managing a landscape company. By having clear goals, both on the sales and the expense side, and then measuring yourself against those goals, you'll have facts instead of hope and instead of gut instincts to let you know you're on the right path to success. So let's dive right in and take a look at the budget. We're going to walk you through a very quick way of how to start your budget. So the first thing you might want to do is log into your LMN trial. What we're not going to do is answer every question on how to build a budget. We've got lots of help videos for those, and they'll really break down all the different components of the budget and how you actually build them. But in this video, we're going to take you through an express tour of your first budget. So don't worry about all the details yet. You're just on a trial. So let's just get a sense of what the budget does and what it's going to take you to build it. So log into your trial, and then on the left-hand side, you're going to go up to the budget menu. So click that. Now you'll notice your trial comes with a couple sample budgets. This is to help you get started with a company similar to your size. We've created sample budgets for a $600,000 company. That's a company with $600,000 in sales, or a $1 million company, or a $2.5 million company, or even a $10 million company. So the best place to get started is to grab the budget that's closest to the size of your company, and then we'll work it out from there. I'm going to use the $1 million company as my starting point. So I'll click that, and that's going to open my first budget. Now, if you don't want to wreck our sample, because it'll be good to look back on in the future, first thing you're going to want to do is copy this and make it for your own company. So down in the bottom, I'm going to click the copy button. Now I might name my budget my company name. Let's say we call this Sample Tree Landscape. So I'll call it that. The year is the year it's about to be, and the company name, if my company name was Sample Tree Landscaping, would be that. When you're done naming your budget and put your company name in, click OK. Now we'll walk you through the key components, but again, quite briefly. If you want more information on any one of these pages and to get really detailed into how to build it, there's a help button on every page that'll launch a video. What you're going to do to start is enter your mix of work. What percentage of work you do for install, maintenance, and snow and ice. That's going to make sure the benchmarks we give you are realistic. Now you can also see on the left-hand side, the budget's broken up into a bunch of mini budgets. So we'll tackle each one at a time. First, you're going to go to the sales budget. What you can do here is break up your sales goal by division, if you want. You don't even have to. And set a previous, what you sold last year, and a forecast, what you hope to sell next year for each one of those divisions. So this is what I sold last year, this, and this. And this is my goals for next year, this, and this. And all those add up to our $1 million budget. Now, if you need to change your numbers, obviously you can just edit them right in here. Or if you want to add a division or subtract a division, there's a new and a delete button over here, which will allow you to customize your own division names. Got that? Now you're ready to move on. On the left side, we're going to go to the field labor budget. Here's where you're going to put your employees that work in the field. So these are not overhead employees like office staff. These are your crews that are out there. And it's really important to know that difference. For more information on what's field labor and what's overhead, you should watch the help video. But for now, just think of this as your crews. You're going to start with your labor burden, which is your payroll taxes and your unemployment. We're going to use 20% as a benchmark. Your state might be higher or lower, but we can start from there. Next, you want to put in the different roles you have in your company, how many staff you have at each role, how many hours they work on average in a year, how many overtime hours on average in a year, and what their average wage is. And once you've got that, you've got your field labor budget built. It's really simple. You're more or less here putting in all your field staff and what they make so that you can come up with a budget per year. Next up, we're going to build a budget for your equipment. Here's where you're going to forecast and calculate exactly what your equipment costs you, even if you don't actually have payments for it. This is what's going to factor in depreciation and make sure your estimates recover that. So you can see the budget starts here in the top left with your forecast fuel, repairs, and insurance. Those again are your forecast costs for next year and what you're going to spend on those three items. And over here in the middle, we've got our equipment rentals. Those are easy totals. Down here, we get into a little bit more detail. And this is where you're going to put in each different piece of equipment you own, how many of those pieces you own, whether they're owned or leased, and then we're going to come up with a cost per year or month. How do you know that cost? Don't worry. When you add a piece of equipment, based on whether it's owned or leased or whatever, there's a calculator associated with it. So if I click that calculator, you can see each piece of equipment has a purchase cost, a year's life, a value at the end of its useful life, and even a factor for interest or inflation, so that it comes up with exactly how much per year you need to recover. And even if your truck is paid for, this will make sure that you're still building in the cost of depreciation that you're going to need to replace that truck one day. Ultimately, all these costs are going to funnel through right to your estimates, so that when a customer gets a price for a job, all these types of costs are going to be recovered. Again, for more information on equipment, just click the Help button and it'll guide you through all the details. The next budgets are easy. Your materials budget is simply that, what you think you're going to spend on materials. Don't forget to increase or decrease what you spent last year based on next year's sales goal. So for instance, if you're going to grow by 20%, then on your material budget, you're going to want to increase that by 20%. Same thing with subcontracting. My subs, I've entered what I spent last year, what I think I'm going to spend next year. And it's really that simple. The last budget you need to worry about is your overhead budget. Here you can take all our sample overhead expenses and change them to your previous and forecasts. This is going to make sure that we recover all your non-estimated expenses when we start bidding work. Your overhead expenses will be things like advertising and rent and cell phones, things you don't count when you actually build an estimate. Now you're going to have more than expenses too. You're going to have overhead wages. Here's where you're going to enter your overhead expenses on wages for office staff, like the owner's salary, office manager's salary, accountants, salespeople, estimators, anybody whose time doesn't actually get estimated when you bid a job. They have to go into overhead. And finally, you've got a section for overhead equipment. Very similar to the equipment budget, but this is going to make sure you recover your equipment that, again, you don't bid into jobs. Now, we don't expect that you're keeping up with this video, but now you have a general sense of how easy it is to take one of our budgets and change it to be your budget and your numbers. And when you're done all that, what you're going to get is a forecast profit and loss. This will make sure that your forecasts are going to be profitable. Now, LMN's budget will also do a couple of awesome calculations for you, including figuring out how much overhead you need to add to each job and how to add it, either by percentage or dollar value. And if overhead recovery is new to you, no problem. Click that Help button again, watch the methods and watch how they work. No matter which one you choose, you're going to know that each job from this point forward is going to be priced accurately with its fair share of overhead built into every one. Finally, there's the Analysis tab. On this tab, LMN will give you some guidance on whether you're on the right track. It'll look at things like your revenue per hour, your unbillable time, your efficiency, and even make suggestions here at the bottom if something looks out of whack. Once you've got all these things finished, simply activate it. And once activated, you're ready to move on to calculating costs and prices for your crews, your equipment, your materials, and you're that much closer to estimating. Now, if you had a little trouble keeping up with our test drive, relax. That's all right. You weren't supposed to. Just merely to show you what LMN can do. We got lots of help videos and lots of help back at the office to help you get through your actual creations. At the bottom of the email you were sent for your trial, you'll see a link for one-on-one help, and we encourage you to reach out and use it. We've got lots of avenues for help built into LMN, including live chat online, hundreds of help videos, and direct access to some of our consultants back at the office who will help you one-on-one, absolutely free, get up and running. So have a look back at your emails and look for that one-on-one invitation. You'll be able to look at your consultant's calendar and book an appointment right there from within.